She checked me and she said that I was ready to push. And so everybody kind of left the room, and I remember Craig saying to me, he's like, I'm terrified of this part. I said, what of, me pushing the baby? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, I am too. And the nurse got ready, and I do kind of remember being struck by the situation because, usually when you hear about these things, there's a couple nurses in there, there's doctor kind of around somewhere, and it was just Craig, I, and Nurse Kim. And I think I started pushing a little bit after 5, and it honestly didn't take very long at all. Only had to push a few times, and I remember a couple times her telling me to stop pushing, and I kept pushing on my own.
When Curtis was born, I was right there, and I saw him, and the cord was wrapped around his neck, and I could see that, and at that point in my mind, I knew what had happened. What Nurse Kim told us to expect about what he would look like when he was born was true. He will look like our baby, but he will look like he's sleeping, and he was. He was the most beautiful baby boy I'd ever seen, and he just looked like he was peacefully sleeping.
When came out, there was a cord wrapped around his neck, and I remember after he was born, the nurse put him on me, and I kept saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And I don't know who I was apologizing to. I was kind of apologizing to Craig, I was apologizing to myself, I was apologizing to the baby. And everybody in the room's like, no, you did nothing wrong, you did nothing wrong. And I was sorry. I was just sorry it had all come to this, basically. She put him on me, and he looked like any other baby. His eyes were closed, obviously. They had already, cut the cord and unwrapped him from it, and he was laying on me, and I didn't know what to do. I mean, he's laying there on me, and he stopped moving, and I just ended up focusing on his nose, and that was kind of the joke during the ultrasound, was that he had the Julie nose. I mean, it's just kind of, all the kids have this nose in the family, and so I just kind of, reached up, and I touched his little nose, and I just kind of focused on that, and tried to, I tried not to be scared, but I was scared of him. I didn't know what to do with this baby that we had planned so hard for. It was already gone before we ever got to meet him.
I was excited to hold him. I was scared up until that point. I didn't know really what to expect until I got to meet him, and at that point I was just like any other new father. I was excited to hold him. I wanted, to be careful with him, to touch his little face and his little nose, and he was just a beautiful baby boy.
And I remember Kim saying to me, she's like, I'm gonna take him over there and get him cleaned up, and then I'll bring him back. And I said, okay, and that's fine. And I said, can you tell our families that the baby's been born? She brought him back, and she had wrapped him up in a little blanket that I'm sure some hospital volunteers had made, and it had like little sailor things on it, I think. And she came over and kind of put him in our arms, and we sat there and held him. And she stood on one side of me, and Craig was on the other, and the three of us were crying. I'll never forget her tears, because she didn't know us 5 hours before, but the fact that she sat there and cried with us and came in on her day off, basically, was really special to us. That she was the first person to ever touch him, and she really treated him very, very well. Craig and I were kind of sitting there, and we were holding him, and I do remember very clearly Craig looking at him and looking at me and said, well, I wanted to learn how to change his diaper. And that's something that I won't ever forget, because it's just, it's one of those moments where it just breaks your heart, and you feel horrible because you feel like you didn't do enough, and at the same time you wanted to he wanted to learn how to change his diaper too. I mean, I never had a baby before, and you know, I said, let's bring our families in, and I think Craig was kind of enjoying the three of us, and I, you know, and as weird as it might sound, I was excited to share him. I just had a baby, and I wanted to show him off, and I was proud of him. I'd gotten over my being scared. I still was fearful. I still held him very carefully. I never unwrapped the blanket. But I wanted, you know, I knew they were all waiting, and I wanted to, you know, show him off. Like I said, it sounds weird, but it's, you know, it was nothing I was embarrassed by. I just, you know, I knew they were waiting, and I wanted to kind of see them. And I kind of remember, you know, we said that we asked the nurse if she could, you know, let them know that they could come in. And I do believe it was my parents that walked in first, and they were already crying, and they came over, and they looked at him right away. We spent the next a couple hours basically passing him around, taking pictures. We all held him. They would come in for a while, and they would have to take him away to go, you know, test something or the other. And they had offered us an autopsy, and I was convinced it was the cord, and I just really didn't want them cutting him open. They cleaned him up really nice, and they put a little diaper on him. But you know, in my confusion and my grief, one of the things I never did was like fully unwrap him. I never checked to see that, you know, he was a boy. I never found that out for myself. I never looked at his feet. I remember somebody kind of pulling out one of his hands and looking at his hands, and I did see that, but I didn't know what I could do. I didn't know what I was allowed to do. I didn't even think about doing those things. When I had been in labor, my brother-in-laws had offered to go back to our house and let our dog out, and we had asked them to pick up this outfit for us that we wanted to dress him in, and my mother-in-law had bought it just a couple days before, and it was a little pants and onesie and a hat, and on the shirt it said, "Thank heaven for little boys." So I happened to have left that on the counter, and so they actually picked that up for us and brought it back, and we did get him dressed in that outfit. So that was really special to us that we had that. We had an outfit that my mother-in-law had picked out.